Prahlad
Gomara acharit pragyo
Gomaracharit Prajno
Dharman
Bhagavatanina
Durlabham Manusham Janma
Durlabham Manusham Janma
Tadapyatrubam Artadam
Tadapyathamartatham
Sri Prahada Vacha
Sri Prahlad Vacha
Gomara acharit pragyo
Gomaracharit Prajno
Dharman Bhagavatanina
Dharman Bhagavatanina
Durlabham Manusham Janma
Durlabham Manusham Janma
Tadapyatrubam Artadam
Tadapyathamartatham Sri Prahlad Vacha
Sri Prahada Vacha
Gomaracharit Prajno
Gomara acharit pragyo
Dharman Bhagavatanina
Dharman Bhagavatanih
Durlabham Manusham Janma
Nirlabham Manisham Janma
Tadapyathamartatham
Tadapyajuvamartadam Sri Parada Vacha
Sri Prahlad Vacha
Prahlad Maharaj said,
Prahlad Maharaj said,
Omara,
Gomara
in the tender age of childhood,
in the tender age of childhood
Acharit
Acharya
should practice
should practice
Pragya,
Prajnaha,
one who is intelligent,
one who is intelligent,
Dharman,
Dharman,
occupational duties,
occupational duties,
Bhagavatam,
Bhagavatam,
which are devotional service
which are devotional service
to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
to the Supreme Personality of God.
Iha,
Iha,
in this life,
in this life,
Durlabham,
Durlabham,
very rarely obtained.
very rarely attained.
Manusham,
Manusham,
human.
human,
Janma,
Janma,
birth.
birth,
Tat,
Tat,
that.
that,
Api,
Api,
even.
even,
Adruvam,
Adruvam,
impermanent,
impermanent,
temporary.
temporary,
Artadam,
Arthadam,
full of meaning.
full of meaning.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Purport. The whole purpose of Vedic civilization and of reading the Vedas is to attain the perfect stage of devotional service in the human form of life. According to the Vedic system, therefore, from the very beginning of life, the brahmacharya system is introduced so that from one's very childhood, from the age of 5 years, one can practice modifying one's human activities so as to engage perfectly in devotional service. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 240, Swapapapyasya dharmasya chayate mahato vaya. Even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Modern civilization, not referring to the verdicts of Vedic literature, is so cruel to the members of human society that instead of teaching children to become brahmacharis, it teaches mothers to kill their children even in the womb, on the plea of curbing the increase of population. And if by chance a child is saved, he is educated only for sense gratification. Gradually, throughout the entire world, human society is losing interest in the perfection of life. Indeed, men are living like cats and dogs, spoiling the duration of their human lives by actually preparing to transmigrate again to the degraded species among the 8,400,000 forms of life. The Krishna consciousness movement is anxious to serve human society by teaching people to perform devotional service, which can save a human being from being degraded again to animal life. As already stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Bhagavad Dharma consists of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Satyam, Aham, Vedanam. In all the schools, colleges, and universities, and at home, all children and youths should be taught to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, they should be taught to hear the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, to put them into practice in their lives, and thus to become strong in devotional service, free from fear of being degraded to animal life. Following Bhagavad Dharma has to be made extremely easy in this age of Kali. The Shastra says, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranita. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Everyone engaged in the practice of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will be completely cleansed from the core of his heart and be saved from the cycle of birth and death. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhitam Sakatami Navitade Swami Bhaktivedanta Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vananam Shri Guru Shri Yutat Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakarjatam Sahaganam Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhavutam Vrijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Bhakti Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Radhaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranavani Hadipya Panchakapatri Vishta Kripasindu Devicha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimati Damodara Swami Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati So, Srila Prabhupada Maharaj is saying that from the very beginning of life, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body to engage in devotional service, giving up all other engagements. Prahlad Maharaj's friends wanted to do so many things. They wanted to play with a ball and run around, and whatever kids do. It's during tiffin hours, so Srila Prabhupada says. During tiffin hours, so you've got your lunch boxes, and I don't know what they do at this particular place where Prahlad Maharaj is, but we can understand when kids are young, they're just playing, they're running around on the playground or doing whatever. But Prahlad Maharaj is saying that from the beginning of life, even if one is a little kid, they should use the human form of life to engage in devotional service and give up all other activities. And throughout the purport, we're hearing Srila Prabhupada explain that the age of Kali is so degraded, it's so horrible, it's steering everyone in the wrong direction from the very beginning. So this Krishna consciousness movement is anxious to present people with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Because if they just chant Hare Krishna, they will be, Srila Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, completely cleansed from the core of their hearts and saved from the cycle of birth and death. So, we have to teach people to chant Hare Krishna, because if they're not chanting Hare Krishna, they're continuing in so many insane activities, which is making them more and more degraded. So we're making this Varnashram Dharma farm community, Varnashram Dharma farm community, so people can actually learn how to engage in devotional service. And not that we tell them what they chant Hare Krishna and go on with working at the slaughterhouse, or chant Hare Krishna and continue going to your slaughterhouse school. But chant Hare Krishna and give your whole life to Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada was preaching, in the beginning he often told people, just add Krishna consciousness, just add the chanting of Hare Krishna to whatever you're doing. You don't have to change your position in society or something like this, you just add chanting Hare Krishna. But we can also practically see what he taught his disciples and what happened as the movement grew throughout the whole world. He, by hook or by crook, made so many people give their entire lives to Krishna. Not just that they only chanted, they heard some kirtan by someone who's not practicing very seriously, and then continued to work at an office and maybe see the devotees on Sunday or something like that. But so many people all over the world gave their whole lives to Krishna, establishing temples for Srila Prabhupada, trying to start different farm communities, distributing books every day, things like this, deity worship. Some people, just during the marathon, we saw one Pujari he was a Pujari when Srila Prabhupada was around, worshipping Gauri Tai in Miami, and now he's still this Pujari worshipping Gauri Tai, and he's really, you can see him, it looks like he's glowing a little bit.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. So, these devotees, they're giving their whole lives to Krishna. So that's really the goal. Like Prahlad Maharaj is saying, to practice the activities of devotional service, and then he doesn't say just sometime or just after school, or after your tiffin hours, or just in between other engagements. It says giving up all other engagements. So there was that lecture where His Holiness Bhakti Vikash Maharaj was saying, that was actually when he was in Atlanta last. He was saying, so our goal is to get people to chant Hare Krishna, follow the four regulative principles, and get initiated, right? And some people were like, Haribol! But he explained that, no, that's initiation means you're initiating an activity, you're at the beginning of something. So just like, okay, we got the farm, but now it's not, Haribol! We got the farm, Jai! Now we can enjoy. But we got the farm, so now it's at the beginning. Like when Mahotsa Prabhu was calling these donors, he's telling them, we need this much money to get to phase 0. So I had to look that up actually, because I was saying that to people too. I was like, what is phase 0? And it's saying online that phase 0, it's often used with medicine companies when they're just beginning, that they've now understood the risks involved with making the medicine. They now understand how it should work, how it should be made. And this, it's just like the initial plan is all set together. So phase 0, it's like the very beginning of something. So we're trying to raise some money to get the very beginning structures that are needed for devotees to live here, volunteers to start coming in, woofers, all of these things, to get it up and running. So it's the very beginning. So in the same way, initiation and all these things, it's the very beginning, and then one should go on making that their full life actually Krishna consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj says giving up all of their engagements. So it's very important, and Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that even in the Bhagavad Gita 240, even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So even if one makes a little advancement by coming to this eco-village and they perform a little bit of devotional service for a short amount of time, that can save them from the most dangerous type of fear of degrading into lower species of life. And in a bigger way, it can save them from being degraded and going back into this materialistic civilization, which is more or less a lower species of life. People are living like cats and dogs. So they can be saved from cats and dogs life, even if they come here for a short time. Why? Because by associating with devotees, they can learn how to engage in Krishna consciousness, and they can get a taste for chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, taking prasadam, like this. So when new people come, devotees have such a huge responsibility. Actually, this person coming, they've got maybe a few days or a few hours or however many. They've got a short window, just like the human form of life is a very rare opportunity. They've gotten this very rare opportunity, this very short window, and from the very beginning, they should use it to fully engage in Krishna consciousness, giving up all other engagements. You got some bhakti leader preaching to them, you got some Sankirtan devotees coming back from a Sankirtan trip, and they're also, the bhakti leaders engaging them, the devotees coming back from book distribution might be preaching to them, someone else is somehow or other making sure that when some new people come, they're always, engaged in Krishna consciousness, so hopefully they can get some sort of a taste, and that taste can save them from being degraded back into the cat and dog civilization for the rest of their life. If they get a real taste, they can continue with it. So a lot of the purport of Prabhupada was also talking about how cruel the modern human society is, and I think as we're here, it seems that'll be a lot easier to notice, because Srila Prabhupada wanted these Dagavarnashram farm communities established so devotees don't have to be dependent on this demoniac civilization. They can actually be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. They're always around devotees. For the grihastas, they're working devotional in a devotional way. Their work is devotional. They're growing food at the farm, which is going to be offered to Krishna, or they're taking care of the cows, which are Krishna's cows, or they're building some different structures and houses on the farm, which are meant for Krishna's service. So these Dagavarnashram farm communities, devotees can be fully in Krishna consciousness and not have to depend on the demoniac civilization. So the longer that we are pushing this project forward in the right direction, it seems that it would become even more apparent to us just how cruel and disturbing the modern civilization is. I remember when I was first joining the devotees at the temple, and my mother was freaking out. She was saying, you know, the longer you're there, the harder it is gonna be to come back. So I think there's just some truth to that. So it's like that. The longer we're fully trying to surrender to the instructions of our spiritual masters and surrender to the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, and set the whole example for what is the Vedic culture. The longer we're absorbed in that, the more obvious the cruelty and disturbing nature of this demoniac civilization will become, which is a good thing, because then the more people come here and associate with the devotees and hear from them, the easier it'll be for them to also see that difference too, just by hearing from the devotees. Like Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport, how the demoniac civilization, it's a killing civilization. From whatever angle you look at it, they kill their own babies, they kill the animals that are giving milk to them and ghee and butter and so many things. It's pretty much hell already. Even though it might look nice, people have some, they act in a nice cordial way. Like we were just signing those papers, and everyone there, they look clean, they wear some nice clothing, they, smile at each other and talk very nicely. But if you just look a little below the surface of the civilization that 99.9% of people are a part of, it's completely disturbing. It's just killing left and right. They kill their children in the womb. The kids kill each other in school. They kill the animals that are providing for them. Then they love pets and they love dogs so much, but then when the dog becomes a burden, they kill it. That's just like the normal practice. Everyone kills their dog once it gets a little too old. Yeah, they say we put him down. We put him down. It's like the nice way of saying it. But your parents kill your dog, and that's just normal. And then the people kill the parents get too old, and they put them in some old folks' home to either maybe get killed early or they just wither away there so they don't have to deal with them. So it's just a killing civilization. But if people come to Krishna life, they can experience the real life actually of Krishna consciousness, which means there's book distribution. People are distributing the books that are giving people, and they're in the most degraded form of life. They're animals, they're cats and dogs, and now they're getting a book that gives them, first it gets them to the human form of life. For the first time, somebody getting one of the books of Srila Prabhupada, they can realize, oh, wait a second, I'm not a cat or a dog or an insect or anything. I'm actually a human being, and this human form of life is very rare, and I can use it to solve all the problems of life. So they're getting books that bring them to the human platform, and then even beyond that to Krishna consciousness. And then at the same time, there's devotees who are going to be taking care of cows. There's kirtan, there's ecstatic kirtan. There's artis that are really fired up, and you see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People can come and actually see what God looks like by just joining an arti. So from any angle you look at it, it's life, it's ecstatic. But from any angle you look at the modern civilization, that so many people are so I don't want to say excited to be a part of it, because they're suffering so much. But when you speak to them, they try to, they act as if they are really excited to be a part of it. When you look at that civilization, it's killing from every angle. It's horrible. Even in people's jobs that they think they're so important, they're just getting killed every day. They're working like an ass. Their body's getting destroyed, and they're not making any advancement towards the goal of life, Krishna consciousness. If someone's not giving their money to for Krishna's service, for the spreading of Krishna consciousness, and they're working so hard all day long, and they're not giving 50% of that income, how are they going to be thinking of Krishna? It's okay. The whole day, all of my time, and all of my energy, and all of my physical work, mental work, my eyes, everything is being used. Maybe they're at an office or whatever it is. They're speaking with people. Everything fully engaged in some materialistic nonsense thing that no one cares about. They don't care. They're like, okay, I'm a IT guy who writes the codes for how some pipe is gonna deliver gasoline that's like stolen from some other people to some other people who are going to use it to like do some more treacherous stuff. They don't actually care about it, or someone's doing some. Anyway, we all know. Anyone who asks what they do for work, they immediately become depressed. So all day they're engaged in some, pretty horrible materialistic thing, and then if they're not following the instructions of the spiritual master, which is to engage 50% of the money from that in Krishna service, which makes it very obvious that this whole activity is actually meant for Krishna. It makes it obvious. If they're giving half of what's coming from that, it's pretty clear that they're not just doing this for some other material gain, but this is actually, I'm taking on this austerity for Krishna's service. If they're not giving half of it, how are they going to think of Krishna? How are they going to be Krishna conscious? When the time of death sneaks up on them, whether they're at work or at home or whatever, how on earth are they going to be thinking of Krishna and go back to God? You can hear the morning walk where the devotees are asking about this to Srila Prabhupada. And they're saying, Srila Prabhupada, so if one doesn't give 50%, are they going to get some sort of, one of the things they're asking about is if they're going to get karmic reactions. And the other thing they're asking about is if it's a material activity. Srila Prabhupada says, yes, it is a material activity. If they're not following the instructions of the spiritual master, it is a material activity, and they are liable for, they are responsible for that activity and whatever reactions come from. Because they're not fully following the process of Krishna consciousness. So they're in the material world, doing some material activity, they have to deal with it. But if one follows the program that Srila Prabhupada has set up, then they're establishing Vaikuntha in the material world. So, in the temples, there's the whole program Srila Prabhupada set up. The devotees follow the whole program, and Srila Prabhupada, coming from the spiritual world, has arranged it in such a way that people can bring, a little piece of the spiritual world here. Embassies of the spiritual world, he called the temples. And then in the same way, grihastas in their homes, they can, their home can become like the spiritual world if they're engaging in those, that program that this person coming from the spiritual world has given. So he tells them if they're working, they give 50% of the money for Krishna consciousness, and then that work actually becomes spiritual. It's Krishna conscious activity. It sucks, probably. They probably don't like to do it. Most jobs people do, they don't like to do. It's austere, but that austerity they're doing for Krishna actually. And it might look like a materialistic activity. This person's doing some crazy IT thing. They're in meetings on Zoom every day, talking what sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Their boss is a woman, which is it's like a whole nonsense thing. But that activity is actually Krishna conscious, because there's so many different sayings people have for where money goes, this and that.
The mind goes, the money goes.
The mind goes where the money goes, like this. So their mind is absorbed in Krishna because all the money that they're doing and that austerity they're doing is for Krishna. In the same way, or in a similar way, you can see when the devotees, they're full-time engaging in some activities to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. It might also look materialistic. Go into some office, meet with some attorney, and they're like chatting about like nothing that matters and all these things. It might look like some material activity, but that seemingly material activity is fully Krishna conscious because it's some work to establish the instructions of the spiritual master to bring this Krishna consciousness movement, which is coming from the spiritual world, Golokara Premadana, Harinama Sankirtan, into this world, so that people can come back home, back to Godhead by engaging in Krishna consciousness. So, this Vedic eco-village is a big deal because everybody can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Some people are really stupid and they say, Prabhuji, you need to make some way that the devotees can make more money. So if you're asking me to give some money to the eco-village, but how are you going to take care of the devotees? And we try to tell them that's the whole point of this actually. It's to take care of the devotees. That we're making a devotee place. The whole country is karmi places, but this is a place where devotees can live in Krishna consciousness. So that actually, in the highest standard of a Vedic community, there's no need for money actually, because everything is coming. It's a community that is self-sustainable. So that's a like a goal to work towards, where devotees can. Actually, the Prabhupada explains, there's all this technological advancement that people are interested in, but no one can eat nuts and bolts. So how long did I already go too long?
I think
It's been 25 minutes on the stream.
A few more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So people can't eat nuts and bolts, but how do people live? All, like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that all living bodies subsist on grains, and those grains come from rains, and rains come from yajna, and yajna comes from proper performance of one's duties. So when there's a farm, the devotees are growing the food is cooked nicely and offered to Krishna, and there's rains. Everything is there's no question of an economic problem actually. Once everything's fully underway. So some people say, why don't you do something where devotees can make some money, and then but you ask them, well, what do you want the money for? And they're saying, so we can have a nice house in the demoniac civilization, and so we can have some money to send our children to demoniac schools, and so we can have. So the whole thing is they want money to be further involved with the materialistic civilization that has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. I want a big house that has way too much space. They don't clean half of it. It has way too much space, and then that house is nowhere near a temple or any other devotees. And then, oh, but Prabhu, that's because there's nice schools in there. And then the nice schools in the area that the house is near, their kids go and learn that there's no God, everything is coming from a void, there's no personality behind anything in the world, everything's happening by random chance, so you just do whatever you want and live like a complete demon. You're not actually a boy or a girl, you're some unidentified object, and you should get a sex change after you graduate or while you're in school. Maybe the school counselor will sponsor it or something like that. So they want money to be involved in demon society. But people can come and establish a devotee community, which is actually a devotional society aimed at going back home, back to Godhead. So more or less we're saying people can come to the eco-village and practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. There's actually no need for a materialistic society which is just killing people at every step. But then how will you have such nice doctors and such nice, scientists who will make new gadgets? And what are your gadgets doing for you? We can film some stuff to, preach nicely. That's pretty nice. And there might be a few other gadgets that are like a little helpful. But other than that, we can see when people live in a village or a simple place for living, there's so much less sinful activities. But then you look at a city and it's just full of sinful activities. And as far as doctors, people are only so sick and diseased all the time because of a irregulated lifestyle that's just completely crazy. So people aren't working like hogs and dogs and developing new mental diseases every year, then there's not a need for this whole hi-fi type of doctor where you go to college for 10 years and get so many diseases yourself and then become a doctor at some hospital where you give people medicine that actually makes like 10 more diseases in their body. If you learn actually in Vedic culture, there's so many ways to heal yourself just by like simple things that come from the earth, or even like some exercises, some herbs, whatever. Ayurveda. There's a whole section of the Vedas on how to prolong your life, and I haven't read all of it or really any of it, but I doubt anywhere in there it says you should drive back and forth to some job all day, send your kids to some place that's going to turn them into like drug addicts and prostitutes and all of these things. So people can come and help set up actually a Krishna conscious community that's centered on Krishna, and give themselves fully to devotional activities instead of so many other indirect activities and all types of distractions. And for those who don't want to come, or they have other responsibilities and this and that, and their life is all set up already in some sort of way, and there's all sorts of plans and things that are already under works, and they're not just going to pack up and move to something, or we can facilitate them in some way, or whatever it is. If someone has their own home and they're working their own job in there somewhere, but they're seeing that, oh wow, Srila Prabhupada said, establish these Daiva Varnashram farm communities, Krishna consciousness is important, I want to help out. They can give 50% of their income, and in that way they're actually directly engaged in Krishna's service, and they're also pushing on this other 50% of Srila Prabhupada's mission. He said when he was wrapping up his manifest pastimes in the material world that there's 50% of my mission that I haven't established yet. There's 50% more of my mission that I want to complete, even though he did so much in bringing Krishna consciousness to the world. He said there's still 50% of it to do. And he said, what is that? It's Daiva Varnashram Dharma. And the devotee said, how are you going to show this? How are you going to implement this? He said, I want to go to the farm in Pennsylvania. I want to go to the Gita Nagari farm, sit down on the land, and show the devotees how to live off the land. So that's what we're trying to do here. So devotees can be engaged in that in so many ways. Everyone can be involved. Okay. Are there any comments or questions or chastisements or corrections?
We see that in the spiritual world, Krishna is dealing with the cows all the time. And there it is called Goloka. He's called Govinda. We see the beautiful picture of Krishna by worshipping. He's with the cow, Gopal. He's always with the cows. Krishna's entire life is revolving around cows. Krishna is thinking of cows all the time, actually. So if Krishna is thinking of cows and we're not thinking of cows, then why would Krishna think of us? Why would he think of us? So it's so important for us to do this example.
Just one point is that up till now, where we're trying to give some hope, devotees, there isn't really any other option for them than one aspect of American school system is that you have to send them to school, like if you live in the city. It's like, I'm pretty sure some states it's illegal to not send them to the schools.
All of them, I think.
Pretty much all of them.
Unless they homeschool, right?
Unless they
Yeah.
homeschool.
But even homeschooling, you have to teach them the same
you have to
curriculum.
teach them the same syllabus. Now, there's some Christian communities in Texas that work around it. But again, they have a whole system that's been established. So it's easier for them to integrate that into their lifestyle. Whereas our Krishna consciousness, whole society in the West doesn't have that, even in the East doesn't have that. Actually, our whole society at large is broken. India is much better because I think there's a bigger turnover of devotees kids being there. I don't know exactly in this situation, but it seems better in terms of support for devotees. Well, one aspect of it is that we should understand that devotees don't have support in North America. They haven't been preached properly. So yeah, we're saying their kids are like going to the prostitute house and this and that. But one thing we should understand and have a little like insight into is that these devotees really don't have many other options. Also, like you're into the karma world, Krishna consciousness. Here's the thing that Prabhupada has presented, but as a movement we haven't fulfilled, so it's not complete. It's just not complete. Like you can go back to Godhead within this lifetime, but if you want to live a Krishna conscious lifestyle like Srila Prabhupada described for Grihastas, it's not there. You just can't. It's impossible unless there's an institution that facilitates that. So it's almost like because of the support system that's not available in society, in our society, it's almost like the devotees have to defaultly kind of like go in this route. And so it is, that aspect is there. It's not just like them, alright, let me send them to the home. It's like, okay, they're trying to, whatever they think is best because they've also been preached to wrong. It's like I fail to see any examples of devotees who are good devotees, who are like following devotees, who have been good Grihasta devotees for a very long time. They don't, like them not send their kids to school or like universities. And it's also another aspect is you can't force a child after a certain age to do anything. It's like, what are you going to do after he turns 18? Mom, I want to go to college. No. We should have trained them earlier, but again, how much societal help did we have to actually bring them up in the proper sense? You send them to school, they're going to associate with others. So we don't have Krishna conscious schools, we don't have farms, we don't have anything. It's really unrealistic sometimes to expect devotees to be at a standard where, Grihastha life is really hard for people that live outside. It's just like, whoever does it, and whoever's maintaining those principles and not watching movies and sticking to Srila Prabhupada's principles, all glories to them. Like just the fact that they're keeping it up is really hard because we see any devotees that go genuinely outside into society just fall out. So those who are at least chanting 60 rounds, following four regular principles, it's like, well, thank you very much. Yeah, now it's up to us to show them, hey, you've been like, some people are telling you, oh yeah, you can do all this, but now we're practically showing you, oh, this is what you should do. Because yeah, they're gonna say it's impractical, how can you do that? Because it's like inconceivable to them because you've never been taught that. You've never been preached that. So it's like really up to us. And even when we tell them, hey, we're doing this, it's like for brahmacharis, for us, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary because we just surrender to the guru and we just do what the guru says. But the grihastas, they have their own level of security and all this, and until they see it practically done, for them it's just like, how's this going to work? What about the schooling? What about kids? What am I going to eat? Anybody that lives in the city, it's like, even for us coming here, it's like, the well doesn't work. it's like we're making it work, but we're brahmacharis, we can make it work with a little bit. So there is that aspect we have to understand that the people, devotees, we haven't created now here's a place now, and once we start to show devotees, that's why the devotees who within Krishna life that become grihastas and take up the mission are so important to this movement. They're the most important people of this movement actually, because they have to show practically how they live a happy married life, a married life that is not divorce, full of fighting and just nonsense and competing with each other, and kids that are growing up happy, playing, learning all of these Vedic arts, and they're sustained. When they meet them, the kids should be very intelligent and sharp, and not just kids that are just retarded or something. No, they're you can see it. Oh, this guy has good manners. This is a divine child. And so these devotees, few devotees that will take up the Grihastha ashram, and they'll become at the forefront of this movement. Actually, they will become the forefront of this movement to lead the way, to establish Varnashram Dharma, to attract other devotees. And because Grihasthas, until they see it, they're gonna go, we want to. Everybody wants to go. We want to see it done, and then it will come. So the few that take it up, whoever does it here at Krishna life, they're really surrendered to Guru and Krishna for setting that path for others to follow. And so some understanding has to be there. That is, at the same time, still, there's devotees who are just insincere and they just didn't follow anything. But then there's those who did follow and really tried their best to raise their kids' Krishna consciousness in the society what they have. And still, the kid, and we look at all of Prabhupada's disciples, kids, it's like a huge mess. But a lot of them are devotees that are amazing, but their kids are failures in terms of objectives, materially.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of perspectives and aspects of this, but it begins with us showing it practically. Until we do that, everybody's going to say, Prabhupada, you're a crazy man. You're going to the West. And it's understandable actually that if I told you I'm going to go over to North Korea and start something, you're freaking nuts. It's understandable. But Srila Prabhupada, when he showed them, then they were some of them became envious, but some of them were he's this is the Acharya. So this is kind of this is how we have to see things also, where people are at. How have they got there? What is their situation? Why is it that they're sending their kids to the house? A lot of them don't understand. Everything's okay, it's fine, as long as my kid, doesn't, for them, a lot of devotees, for children, their success of their children is if they just somehow, get a good job and don't become a drunkard and just whatever on the street and have a house to live in. That seems to be our standard about, devotional society's children. So we really have to show, hey look, if you're here, your children will become way better than anything that out there. They'll be chanting, they'll be reading, they'll be hearing, they'll be intelligent. Just because you live on the farm doesn't mean you're some dumbo that doesn't know anything and you didn't study anything. No, they should be very like sharp.
There'll be sharp kids. The brown nickel kids will be sharp, and the white shade kids will be fatty. For example, there's one Prabhupada disciple whose kid, is from a material perspective, he was a big fatty, but he actually knows how to take care of oxen, and he's dedicated his life to taking care of oxen and taking care of cows. So from one perspective, it may not be sharp, right?
Yeah.
But from another perspective, like this guy is so practical.
Yeah.
Right, so with the Varna Ashrama, there'll be the sharp kids. There'll be kids who, some kids may not even want to learn how to read, but they may be very good on the farm. So the whole idea is that we present it in such a way that no matter who you are, it's not like, you have a certain level of guna and karma, and your wife has a certain level of guna and karma, and like you come here, you join your kid, and he's going to be like full on, every way he'll be engaged, and he'll be Krishna conscious, he'll be happy, and he'll have a very good character. That's the whole point. That the character of the children will be taken care of. They will be happy in Krishna. The whole point is when we send kids to universities and other places, it slaughters their innocence. The innocence of the children is slaughtered. And when the innocence of the children is slaughtered, then they're forced into a particular situation. But we show them, right? Like kids will be sharp, and we want to have sharp. For example,
sharp in the sense that, most people's idea also is that if you live out in the country, you're a useless person. That's what I mean by also like that. Look, he knows a lot. Like he's not some. It doesn't mean you have to know astronomy and astrology and doctor and all this. No, we're not gonna know any of that crap. We don't care about that. And we don't want people that care. We're like, okay, but each and every child knows his specialty, and he's good, and he's like, it's impressive. And somebody says like, all right, I can see that these children are very different to these Kali Yuga children, and whatever ashram they may be, Shudra, Vaishya, whatever it may be. But
and we would care about astronomy and stuff like that, right? Even in Vedically, science-wise, definitely. I mean, but we can also see that we will need, as the Varnashram goes, we will need brahmanas who know astrology and all this to help with the, marriage and or to help with so many things. Right? Brahmana is just part of traditional Vedic life. And one thing also we are seeing that even those devotees who are very sincere and they understand the demoniac effects of this civilization from reading Prabhupada's books, we actually have examples of children in Dallas, Jaishnav and his sister. Jaishnav's father was a very, very intelligent person, and his mother was a scientist. But then when they came into Krishna consciousness, they started reading Prabhupada's books and all this, mom was like, I can't do this anymore, I have to be a traditional wife. She gave up being a scientist, the father's taking care, and I go to Dallas just to see those kids.
They're amazing.
They are, he's so effulgent, the boy and the girl, they're so effulgent. It's so amazing. And the parents homeschool the kids. And they no matter what they have, it's very clear. She makes them, let them know that this karmic life is not an option. And because they have such a standard, the kids are coming out so nice. So yes, devotees are trying their best and all this, and of course it's a case-by-case perspective and all this. But due to miseducation, or there's two types, right? Krishna speaks about this. One type that are envious with the principles of Krishna consciousness, speaks about Bhagavad Gita, I think it's 331. And the other 330 is a person who's not envious with the principle. 331 is not envious, 332 is envious. Both these things are there, So we said those who are envious, even amongst whatever situation they have, they make it work with their kids. And I've seen it with Jai Shan, I've seen it with other devotees I know in Michigan, for example, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu, his kids. There are kids, this our friend Santushta Rajanath Prabhu, he has a full-time job, but he took, just like Navani, took time off They bought a booth in a mall. Him, his wife, and his kid go out on book distribution every day.
Wow.
Every day. You know? So there is an option. Even yes, it's not the best option. It's a compromised option. But those who are sincere actually, they push it through. They make it happen. And we can see some devotees are trying hard. For example, they're moving all the way to Raleigh just so that kids can be with other devotee kids. But some you see in that school also they have Halloween, and then the kids are dressed up as Batman, Spider-Man, this and that. Why? Because they're making the kids watch all this stuff. So it's there's a full mix, but the overall aspect is, guys, you're too lazy to apply what's in Prabhupada. You're too lazy to understand Siddhanta. Because you're lazy in understanding Siddhanta, you don't want to apply what's in Prabhupada. You don't have the faith to apply.
That's why we see it so scarcely distributed. That's
What do you say?
It's so scarcely distributed, those few people.
Yeah,
That's my
exactly.
point, is that overall, because of the institutional support isn't there, those devotees really have to take it on their own.
Yeah,
It's not that
For sure.
the temple is
it is a
helping.
nuclear project.
That's what, so it's not that the temple is helping them do that. Is
No.
ideally in society, we would have all our temples pushing that.
Yeah,
And that would form more of those, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be an outlier. So that's
Yeah.
my point, is that,
Yeah.
that the
For sure.
institution is failed,
For sure.
people,
Miseducation.
yeah, so there are those outliers, and in any society, even amongst us who are brahmacharis, and if we were when we were in other temples,
It was
we were
terrible.
almost trying to be outliers, like we were trying
Yeah.
to see. And so somehow or other we got that intelligence by Krishna's mercy.
Yeah.
But when you have a facility, then you have more of those, and then you have a system and an education.
For sure.
So that's the main thing, is that they're lacking that.
Yeah.
And then whether they would have followed if that education was there or not, now
That's up to them.
that's up to them. But the point is that our whole system and our institution has failed us
Yeah.
in educating us about what it means to be Krishna conscious, what it means to be dependent on Krishna, and how to actually live a Krishna conscious life. It's failed us.
Yeah.
None of that training is there.
Yeah.
So therefore,
It's a fault of the Brahmanas.
Yeah.
Bottom
So,
line.
so it's just like, people come out of their material life, and if the society gives you the lowest common denominator, you just take
Go
that.
for it.
And then everything just becomes that standard, and then it just keeps yoga nashta parantaka finished. That's all. And that's what's happening. We say, oh, that's not few nonsense.
And the main, we can even see this even if you read Mahabharata, Bhagavatam. The downfall starts with the downfall of the Brahminical class. And some scholars actually point that the downfall of the Brahmana class started with
Sri.
Drona.
Oh.
Dronacharya. It started with Drona. Sri was after
Ah.
Drona. Started with Drona. But okay, you're the spiritual master of these people, but just because you ate their salt doesn't mean you're dependent on them. You should still, no, I'm your guru, shut up and listen to me. Like in one lecture, it's called Disobeying One's Guru. Guru Maharaj said, you don't have to adjust to me. I don't have to adjust to you, you have to adjust to me. And I can say this because I'm following Guru Sadhguru. So the downfall starts from the Brahminical class, always. So the minute the Brahmanas are compromised, the entire society will become compromised. That is why it's so important. We're not just doing cooperation, we're establishing Brahminical culture. When you establish Brahminical culture, then everything falls in place. So anyway, we can go on and on. It's like a Varnashram meeting.
Alright.
I call pen real quick.